in my head only, so. All right, we can go ahead and call to order the traffic committee meeting for the City of Mission Viejo for Monday, July 20th. The time is 3:04, so let me get that marked down for our minutes. And this meeting is an opportunity for members of the public to address traffic and transportation related matters with two members of the city's Planning and Transportation Commission. This is our second virtual meeting being held due to the stay-at-home restrictions due to the COVID-19 situation we have going on. So let's go ahead and start the meeting with a round of introductions. We'll start with staff first and then move on to the commissioners. So Philip, do you want to go next?
Sure. My name is Philip Natuyama. I'm the traffic engineer for the City of Mission Viejo.
All right, and then Rich is our next city staff member.
Rich Schlesinger, city engineer.
All right, and I believe Mark Shagnon is with us today.
Yes, Mark Shagnon, Director of Public Works.
And Mark Josen, our IT tech support. Would you like to say a quick hello? Okay, maybe not. We can move on. Commissioner Nauerhays, would you like to do a brief introduction?
Cameron Nauerhays, Planning Commission, Transportation.
All right, and Commissioner Leknes.
Commissioner Leknes, hello.
All right. So the first item on our agenda today is the approval of the May 18th Traffic Committee minutes. Those were sent out to you in draft form. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I will second that motion.
All right, and the meeting minutes for May 18th are approved as written. The next item on our agenda is for a left turn refuge on Alicia Parkway at Lanzarote, and Philip will be providing the staff presentation on this.
Gotta unmute, Philip.
Okay, sorry about that. Let me see if I could share my screen on here. All right, can you guys see my screen?
Looks good.
Thumbs up.
Looks
Okay.
good.
So,
Can you maybe zoom in a little bit? Otherwise, it looks good.
I'm not sure how to zoom in.
Oh, all right.
Let me see here. Does that make it better?
Yeah, definitely better.
Okay. All right. Hold on for a second. So this is the intersection of Alicia Parkway and Lanzarote. It is the first unsignalized intersection just west of Alicia Parkway and Olympiad Road. As you can see, it does have access to Lake Mission Viejo, and it is a T intersection where it only has 3 legs. The request that we received was for a refuge lane when you're coming out of Lanzarote, making a left turn to go eastbound on Alicia Parkway. I do have some data on here. Alicia Parkway is 50 miles an hour, the posted speed limit, which we determined in 2017. The average daily traffic volume is 32,000 vehicles, roughly. That's a 2020 traffic data count that we conducted in January of this year, before the COVID-19 pandemic occurred. At the bottom of this exhibit, we've indicated that there were 5 reported collisions in the past 3 years. So that's including 2017, 2018, and 2019. There were 3 collisions in 2018 and 2 in 2019, and there were 0 in 2017. Right. So this is the next exhibit, which is our aerial exhibit. As you can see, Lanzarote has a stop sign when you're coming out of Lanzarote. It's a 1 lane in each direction. There's an existing eastbound left turn lane to go into Lanzarote, and the proposal today is to create or construct a refuge lane in the existing median on Alicia Parkway. So when you exit out of Lanzarote, you make a left, you're going to land in the refuge lane prior to merging to go eastbound on Alicia Parkway. So that's what's being proposed. And then this is a photo when you're heading south on Lanzarote, you see the stop sign. This is our street view photo. The proposed left turn refuge lane would be on the left where the existing raised median is located today. And then this is our street view photo. If you're heading east on Alicia Parkway, you can see Lanzarote on the left of the picture. The proposed left turn refuge lane is after the existing left turn in lane. And then this picture here is if you're traveling westbound on Alicia Parkway, you have Lanzarote to your right, and then the raised median is on your left where the proposed left turn refuge lane is supposed to be constructed. And then this picture is just a location of what's out there today. There is a raised curb median. There's some landscaping and some trees, and I believe there's a drain inlet at the nose with some signage. This exhibit sorry about that. This exhibit shows the intersection sight distance visibility based on our standard plan 315. You're supposed to be able to see 660 feet in each direction when exiting out of Lanzarote. There is a slight horizontal curve that's in favor of the sight distance. So you're on the outside of this curve, which increases your visibility. And then this is our standard plan. Alicia Parkway is a major roadway and it's an unsignalized intersection. So that's how we came up with 660 feet. And this is the original request that we received from the resident. It says, I'm going to read this out loud. Good afternoon, Mark. Here's a preliminary design sketch as to how to improve traffic flows across Alicia Parkway from Lanzarote to the eastbound lane of Alicia Parkway. You and me have discussed this possibility many times over the past few years, and I thought I am now going to do something about it. We need action, and I speak on behalf of many Andalusian residents. The city opined Brett Kennedy recent letter that there is no significant reason to do anything. He obviously does not recognize the traffic problems getting across Alicia's westbound lanes. Mark, I urge you and respectfully ask you to get this work designed and done. I am writing this and submitting my preliminary sketch to you and asking you to give this matter priority. When the swimming stadium needed to be renovated, no money nor effort was too much. However, when one looks at the overall impact of it, one asks who's actually benefits from that $11 million. Anyway, enough said. So please let's see some action very soon. Hope all is well with you. Sincerely, Jeff. Can you guys see this exhibit right here? Okay, I just want to make sure that this is very clear what's being asked. There's supposed to be an eastbound refuge lane, and then there's also a guiding island in the middle. It's a triangular raised island at the middle of the intersection. All right, and then this exhibit that I created, I call this our intersection collision diagram exhibit. What I did here was I plotted the location of the 5 reported collisions in the past 3 years. So for 2017, there were no reported collisions. In 2018, there were 3 reported collisions. There were two broadside collisions, as you can see here in the middle of the intersection. The reason for those two broadsides was a failure to yield the right-of-way when the vehicle was exiting out of Lanzarote. They were hit by a vehicle that was traveling westbound on Alicia Parkway. And then the third collision was a hit and run object. So they were heading westbound on Alicia Parkway and I think they hit the stop sign. And then in 2019, there were two collision. One was unsafe speed, which was a side swipe, and then there was another one related, and it was on the same day. It was an unsafe turn, which was a rear end. The information on here, I want to clarify that the clear shapes, this clear square and the clear circle means it's property damage only. The two broadsides with an X on the circle, that means that there was an injury collision. And I have at the bottom of this exhibit, I don't know if you guys could see that, but it shows the details for the collisions on here. When I asked the sheriff's department for the collision data, they told me that there were 0 reported collisions for 2020. So this exhibit actually includes 2020 current date. I will make a note. We typically review collisions for 3 years. So 2017 is as far back as we review. But in 2016, there was a fatal collision at this intersection. The 2016 fatal collision was another broadside at this intersection. And the cause for that one was based on driving under the influence, as the driver was under the influence. That's outside of the 2017 3-year mark, but I want to make a note of that. All right, so this exhibit shows the options that we have to improve the intersection based on all the data that was provided. Option 1 is to keep the intersection as it is. Option 2 is spot police enforcement and temporary speed radar trailer placement. Option 3 is to construct an intersection ahead sign westbound prior to the intersection. This intersection has an existing intersection ahead sign if you're traveling eastbound, as you can see on the lower left. That's there today. Option 3 is to propose adding one when you're traveling westbound. There's a traffic signal in the median where we could place it. So that informs the driver that there's an intersection ahead. Option 4 is what's being proposed by the resident, which is a eastbound left turn refuge lane with a raised curb median. I drew some white markings on this exhibit to illustrate how it would look like from the aerial. Option 5 is to construct a no left turn signage and striping and eliminate the left turn on Lanzarote. That would make the drivers make a right turn instead, and then they would have to make a U-turn at the next signal, which is Calle Azarin. And then there's also our last option is to construct a traffic signal if and when it is warranted. We will be showing a traffic signal intersection watch list later to show if this intersection met that warrant or not. That concludes my presentation. Do the commissioners have any questions before I read the response or the comments that I received from the public? Oh, okay, I see Commissioner Nauer Hayes waving his head no.
No.
Yeah, Commissioner Leckness says no as well. Our director, Mark Shagnon, is here. Mark, do you want to say something first, or do you want me to read the resident comments first?
You go ahead and read the resident comments first.
Okay. All right. I received, I think it was 9 comments for this item. So I'm going to try to read each one out loud to you guys. Can you see my screen with the comments? Okay. So the first comment is actually from the same individual that requested this item. It's from Mr. Jeff Lauder. Good morning, Mr. Nitsuyama, here with my brief note as per your request and as related to the interior traffic routes within Andalusia area. Due to the heavy Andalusia traffic volumes at peak travel hours between 6 to 9 a.m. and then from 4 to 7 p.m., having to cross Alicia when exiting the Andalusia community, it is becoming more and more difficult to safely cross Alicia in order to merge with easterly traveling traffic and to safely merge with easterly traffic lanes. In addition, this left turn movement from Lanzarote is further hampered and rather hazardous because of the high rate of speed of the vehicles traveling westerly from Olympiad due to the downhill slope in this direction, meaning drivers making the left turn from Lanzarote have to be observing traffic from both directions. What is happening, and especially the morning traffic, is now beginning to drive via what we call in the Netherlands traffic sneaking routes and proceed the long way around to San Marcos exit onto Olympiad, then make a right turn and proceed to Alicia and use the traffic lights left turn signal at Alicia and Olympiad intersection to safely go easterly to Santa Margarita areas rather than exiting at Lanzarote and trying to merge with the easterly Alicia Parkway traffic. Even though it certainly is not impossible, but certainly much more hazardous. I am respectfully requesting also on behalf of many Andalusia residents that you not be totally guided by statistics. There have been fatal casualties and accidents, but they took place out of the statistical time period. But also use good traffic and engineering sense and approve to implement the plan of constructing very small and not very complicated concrete, what I call a safe driving guidance island. As I have presented a preliminary design sketch for your approval consideration. My personal professional opinion is that it no doubt will help to avoid more serious accidents as the traffic volumes no doubt will be increasing in the future. We sure don't want to opine we should have done this earlier, and as you can observe at 3 other locations along Alicia Parkway. Various local Andalusia residents have asked me for the virtual traffic committee meeting info in order to observe and hear the deliberation of the subject matter. Respectfully submitted and with thanks for your consideration, Jeff Lauder. So that was the first comment from the resident. The second comment, there you go. Second comment is, I would like to express support for the left turn refuge lane on Alicia and Lanzarote. The death of that young girl some years ago could have been prevented with it. As a mom of 3 kids who all learned to drive in this neighborhood, I 1000% support this improvement, this important safety change. Thank you, Emma Sandu. So that was the second response. And this is the third one. This is in response to your request for input on a proposed refuge lane on Alicia and Lanzarote. In the absence of a drawing, I am not certain what is being proposed. I live off of Lanzarote and exclusively use that intersection. It is my opinion that what is needed is a traffic light. Traffic coming from the left down Alicia to Lanzarote regularly travels at a high rate of speed. Alicia at that location is a dangerous and scary road to cross. A refuge lane would not lessen that danger, but a traffic light would. Thank you for keeping us all safe, Janet Bear. All right, and then the fourth resident response. I am a resident of the area. We live on Tiagua. We need to make that left turn from Lanzarote to Alicia going east quite often. It is a very dangerous intersection. There have been many accidents there and possibly deaths. I think the left turn refuge lane is an excellent idea and should eliminate most of the accidents at that intersection. That's from Mel Progar. Okay. And this is resident received response received number 5. Would have been a good idea to include a diagram photo with your email so we could tell what a refuge lane actually is. Doesn't sound like something that will eliminate all the danger inherent to that intersection. Cars come speeding in both directions when you're trying to enter Alicia from Lanzarote. I believe a traffic light would be more effective. I'm a resident who lives a block from that intersection and use it every day, so I know what I'm speaking. Thanks for trying to keep us all safer. Wear a mask. RJ for Jaren. Right, so that was number 5. This resident comment is number 6. It is a bit long, so I'm going to turn on the timer. I think during our notifications, we had a 3-minute time limit, so I'll start that now. Dear Madam or Sir, I am not certain what your plan is for a left lane refuge. I needed to look that up. I found an interesting PowerPoint from New York City from 2012 of a study of left turns and pedestrian traffic flow. You might find it of interest. There's a link there. As a resident of Lanzarote and Alicia homes, I make left turns from Alicia onto Lanzarote often and do not have problems. Maybe once in 22 years, there were 2 cars behind me. The turn lane does not quite accommodate 3 cars. One has to pull a little forward, but there is a space to do so. And then 3 cars can make it. What I have noticed is the left lane and pulling out to turn left onto Lanzarote causes you to pull away right onto Lanzarote, and Lanzarote begins to bend a bit left, so you do have to compensate. My husband used to say left turn barrier should be about 1 foot shorter at the exit point for the left turn. He was an Anaheim police sergeant. The problem is the left turn out of Lanzarote onto Alicia. That turn can be challenging for inexperienced drivers. I have made both of my sons travel through the neighborhood to exit with the light at Calle Azarin in order to make a left turn. This has not been a problem. Each of my sons see being able to make a left turn onto Alicia from Lanzarote as a sign of progress in their driving abilities. There have been 2 accidents at the intersection that I know of in 22 years. One was a truck pulled out to make a left turn, and out of nowhere, a motorcycle flew like a bat out of hell from the left turn at the light by Albertsons. The light change is usually perfect time to make a left turn as traffic is slowed or stopped. However, no one expects a motorcycle to fly out at an enormous speed and whip around that turn. The motorcycle's Albertsons bagger died upon impact. Another young woman died about 5 or 6 years ago while making the left turn off Alicia onto Lanzarote. I do not know details. I do know of 2 deaths and a recent accident of people traveling at high speeds down Alicia, crossing over Olympiad, crashing when Alicia bends right after Calle Azarin. I have wondered about a light, but it doesn't make much sense when the light at Calle Azarin and at Albertsons. Being careful is the key. Having common sense of using Calle Azarin if you are a less experienced driver, maybe older, more cautious, and slow driver. I'm sorry for that. Lastly, I have noticed in the last year so that people are making U-turns at Lanzarote, swinging way right onto Alicia. Have twice. Okay. So that tells me that the 3 minutes is up, so I'm going to move forward to the next resident response, resident comment. Okay, so this is a response number 7. I'm sorry, the last comment was from Linda Shepard. Okay, so now I'm on response number 7. What is the issue? This is very important for those of us who live in the area bounded by Alicia and Olympiad. Is the issue to make it longer to accommodate more cars during rush hour? That's the only change I would suggest. This response was from Joseph O'Connell. Okay, now I'm on comment number 8. To the Public Works Department, my husband and I are very much in favor of adding a traffic refuge lane at Alicia and Lanzarote roads. It is very dangerous crossing over southbound lanes at all hours of the day. The cars traveling south on Alicia are traveling at a high rate of speed. It is like taking one's life in one's hands trying to cross over. Sometimes it takes minutes to cross over to the northbound side of Alicia. We would very much appreciate this refuge lane to keep our neighborhood and guests safe when crossing over the northbound side of Alicia. Best regards, Connie Lancizera. So that was comment 8. And this is the last comment that we received. Dennis and Andrea Williams strongly support the proposed refuge lane on Alicia Parkway to safely accommodate vehicles making a left turn from Lanzarote Drive. Currently, it is often very unsafe to make a left turn from Lanzarote onto Alicia due to the following factors. 1, at this location, Alicia has 3 traffic lanes in each direction, and it is often difficult to find an open gap that is free from cars approaching from both the left and right. Number 2, the traffic on Alicia has increased greatly over the past 20 years, making it increasingly unsafe to make a left turn from Lanzarote. Number 3, often the cars on Alicia are traveling at a speed of 55 miles per hour, even though the speed limit is 50 miles an hour. Number 4, over the years, there have been serious vehicle accidents at this location, including fatalities. Number 5, a refuge lane on Alicia for left turners from Lanzarote will allow drivers to focus primarily on vehicles approaching the left and will result in a far safer turn. Thank you for proposing a badly needed and long overdue left turn refuge lane on Alicia. And that concludes the comments that we received from the residents about this traffic committee meeting item. Do you have any questions, commissioners?
Commissioner Narvaez.
I just have a couple staff questions, not of citizens.
Okay. Go ahead, Commissioner Nauer-Hayes. What are your questions?
And this is probably just a little bit more ignorant on my end. The timing of the light at Albertsons and the timing of the light down at, I think it's Zoran. I understand the city times all the lights, in a certain pattern. Is there any way to add time to make traffic sit 30 seconds longer to let those people get out of their neighborhood, maybe at Albertsons intersection or one of those other intersections? Is that possible?
Well, anything's possible. So we could definitely look into that. However, when we do our timing and synchronization, what we're trying to do is move the vehicles along the main corridor, which is Alicia Parkway. So we're trying to minimize the delays along the corridor. However, I think you're requesting to hold up the traffic so that vehicles can make a left turn out, or give them more time to come out of the side street. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I mean, I guess overall, a traffic light, I don't know would make sense just because of the distance that we're dealing with between the other two lights. I like the idea of a refuge lane, but ultimately, and I drive Alicia every day. I drive right past here. Speed's an issue. That neighborhood is kind of on lockdown in getting out of there. This is a human behavior issue. We want to move traffic along, but it's like a raceway. So if we were able to give them an extra even 20 seconds, and I throw this out just as feasibility, I don't know if it would work or not, but with a refuge lane and adjusting the lights to accommodate that, might be food for thought.
Okay, we could look into that.
This is Rich. My only question or comment about that is the synchronization timing along Alicia. If you add 30 seconds there, Isn't that going to throw off the whole platoon effect and the timing plan all the way down Alicia?
Yes, that's correct. There is an opportunity or a byproduct in doing that. Again, our goal for synchronization is to move traffic along the main corridor. So delaying that traffic would lessen the progression of traffic through the main corridor, but it would give more time to the side streets and the left turns. So there's a lot of back and forth on where you want to place the emphasis on your timing, but you're correct. It would potentially impact all of the other signals downstream and upstream the corridor.
So Philip, what is the time when I look right and I look left, or east and west, and I'm pulling out on Lanzarote, on Alicia? If somebody has a red light, how many minutes do I have to get into the intersection and get onto Alicia?
Oh,
I mean,
that's a challenging question.
Or is the synchronization set to a certain time where they're synchronizing, cycling every 90 seconds, or what is it?
It depends on different times of the day and different days of the week. We have timing plans throughout the day, morning, midday, afternoon. And then we have different timing plans on weekdays to weekends.
Gotcha.
But off the top of my head, I think we're using, and Brett, maybe you can correct me, but I believe we're using 140-second cycle length during the peak hours. So what that means is the longest a vehicle will wait if they just arrive at the intersection and they just turned from, red to yellow, green to yellow to red. The maximum they would wait is 140 seconds. That's what we've been using for our maximum cycle length. Maybe Brett can give you more information.
Okay, yeah, just the basic concept of how traffic signal synchronization works is there, like Philip said, there's a 140-second cycle, and that cycle starts with your main street green, and there's the amount of time we allot to the main street green is called the split, and there's a split for each different direction that can get a green light, and that cycle timer will hold through that split, and then once it releases the green light from the main street, it can go based on sensors to the other directions until it goes back to the main street, and then it's locked in there for that next cycle to complete. So if you wanted to create a delay there, we would have to look at doing something like putting the side street, like the driveway or calle Azarin, like on a pedestrian recall. So it's going to max out that pedestrian time each time. And that's going to add a good 30, 35 seconds of delay there, even if there's no pedestrians or no cars coming out of there. And with Alicia being a street that's going to carry around 30 to 40,000 vehicles a day through the area, I would expect that our level of complaints we would get from that kind of operation would be severe. So I don't think that is something that would be wise to look at as far as introducing delay on Alicia Parkway. I think there's other solutions that would be better than that.
All right, I have the perfect solution. Okay, if you can go back a couple pictures, because there's one that's just so perfect. It tells you how crazy this intersection is here. I'm very familiar with this intersection. Keep going. One more. I think one more. I mean, it really gives you like a feel. One more, I think. One more picture. All right, I guess that's good. That's a good one right there. So that's that Lanzarote. People are coming out. The red car is about to try and get across, to go eastbound on Alicia, I suppose, where that is. And I've done that. I've been right there, and I know all of you have too. You got 3 lanes of traffic and a bike lane coming at you, and you got to time it so you don't get anybody, coming down eastbound Alicia, and it's like not safe. And yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the fatality that was there, not long ago, a couple of years ago. And it seems like all the accidents. And this is where you guys decide this part. But it doesn't seem like that refuge lane would solve the problem. Almost all the accidents have been T-boned, you know, from someone coming down here, from a guy trying to get across over to that. So I don't see how that having that the turnout lane, or that whatever we called it, the refuge lane, is going to solve the accident. The accidents have happened before they ever get over to that. So it doesn't seem like that's the solution. Now go back. Can you go back to the last one you just had? I mean, before I ask you to go back all the way to the front. Oh, well, that one there too, with that whole cutout thing. You can see it here too. The little white, you know, triangle or whatever. It seems like that might even be dangerous for traffic going eastbound on Alicia, and you've got that cement raised area there. I think that's raised. I don't know if that was a turnout lane is composed of, but it seems like that may not be the best idea. But here's your solution, and you guys just got to figure out how to do it. I've seen them. They're like a yellow traffic light. It's not a traffic light, but it's just a yellow flashing. It just sends a message, hey, look out here, you know, maybe slow down a little bit. Something's coming up. Where there's no traffic, you don't have to stop. It doesn't screw up the synchronization, but it just is allowing the residents to know that maybe, you know, this is something you should keep an eye out. In the event that you cannot do that, I think the traffic light is the best. It seems like this place would really warrant a traffic light. However, if it doesn't have all the criteria that allows us to have the traffic light, and you think this this cutout refuge lane would work, then that I would support that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments, Commissioner Leckness. I think you're referring to a beacon, the flashing beacon. That's just it's just a light that's constantly flashing. We do have a couple of those in the city. There's one on Trabuco, just prior to Modesto, and then we also have one on El Toro, just before Glen Ranch Road. The flashing beacons, that's what they're called. They're placed there because they warn the driver that you may have to stop. There's a signal ahead. That's what the flashing beacon informs the driver. For this particular intersection, it is unsignalized, and they wouldn't be stopping because they don't have a traffic control. So I'm not sure if that's an applicable solution for this intersection. Before we move forward, I wanted to introduce our Director of Public Works, Mark Shagnon. He had some comments that he wanted to provide in regards to this intersection request. Mark, are you there?
Yes, thanks a lot, Philip, and good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, I did want to speak in support of the left turn refuge lane. That intersection there, as it's been noted by several of the people who commented, you've got 3 lanes in each direction. It's a high-speed roadway, and it can be a little bit challenging trying to pull out of there turning left because you've got to look both left and right and time your exit. And with the refuge lane, what it would allow folks to do is focus initially just on the traffic going westbound coming down the hill. And then once they got into the refuge lane, then they could look at traffic going eastbound. Because I think what you're seeing with those broadsides is people are somewhat distracted by trying to look in both directions. And maybe they looked left, but then they looked right. And then by the time they pulled out, someone coming from the left was right on top of them. And with the cars coming down that hill at high speed, you know, that can easily happen. There's 2 other locations on Alicia that already have this exact configuration with the left turn refuge lane. That's at Alicia Montebello, and also at the apartments just east of the intersection of Alicia and Geronimo. And both of those work very well. So this is a proven configuration. It is something that we've looked at in the past. And the only reason we didn't move forward with it was because At the time, the accident data wasn't overwhelming, and also we had other higher priorities in the city in terms of things to address. But we've addressed those other priorities, and there's no better time to do this because a month from now, we are going to have a contractor out there doing a full rehabilitation of this portion of Alicia Parkway. A contractor that does this kind of work, curb, gutter, pavement, exactly what needs to be done. So this contractor can very efficiently incorporate this into the work that it's going to be doing on Alicia anyway. So now would be the time to take advantage and get this done. So for all those reasons, staff is in support of this recommendation. And that's all I have, Philip. So I'll open it up to any further questions about it. But I think it's a good idea. We can do it very efficiently. It's not going to cost us a lot of money. And as I said, we've got a contractor already under contract out there that's going to be starting work very soon, and we can just fold it into that and get this done.
Mark, I got a question for you. On the other ones that are on Alicia, I can't picture where they are, so I don't know how the traffic's coming, but it seems like it would be, let's say I'm coming down Alicia towards Lanzarote and I'm headed towards Olympiad, and I'm coming at 55 miles an hour or whatever the speed limit is there, and I see a guy coming out of that Lanzarote. He's coming. I'm going to hit him. Oh, but he goes into that lane, so I'm safe. Is that going to cause any kind of drama for the driver going down Alicia, seeing him pulling out, and he doesn't know that there's a cut out there? I don't know. If it's worked before, I'm all for it. If you think it's good, I think that's important. Commissioner Nauerhase, whatever you think, if you think it's good, maybe we could do it. If you have an issue.
Well, the intent there is that the driver pulling out of Lanzarote, because he will be able to focus on those vehicles heading westbound coming down the hill, then hopefully he won't pull out and make it a close call, because he'll be able to focus all of his attention and just look at the vehicles approaching from that direction, wait till he has a good opening, pull into that left turn refuge and wait, and then see what the eastbound traffic looks like. So the whole point is that you try to reduce the number of close calls with people pulling out of Lanzarote and someone coming down that hill at a high speed having to hit the brakes hard.
Hey, Mark, do you guys put any kind of reflectorized little poles on that little cutout when people are coming out on Lanzarote? So when there is no traffic and someone's just kind of hauling down Lanzarote and wants to turn out, do you reflectorize that little triangle there?
I think so. The one at Alicia and Montebello was like one of the first projects I ever did back in like the early mid 90s, and we'll dust off those plans and we'll do it per the standards. But I'm sure there's a reflector or some type of signage on there, so it's got to be visible. Because the last thing you want is someone coming out of Lanzarote and hitting that pork chop island. But again, it's a proven configuration. It's been in place for many, many years at those other two intersections, and it's worked well.
Just to have a quick comment, we can paint the raised curb median, that triangle in the middle, with a yellow paint, and then so it's more visible to motorists. And then in the past we've also added yellow raised pavement markers to show that it's a reflectorized RPM. That's what they're called, raised pavement markers. And then usually, like similar to the one at Alicia and Montebello, there is a sign at the corner of that triangle tip that tells you where to enter and where the vehicles are entering to go to the Lanzarote. There's a specific sign that's added on there. I don't know if that sign's still valid, but we could look into that as well.
All right.
All right. So did you guys have any other questions, commissioners?
No other questions.
I'll make a motion to approve staff's recommendation.
I'll second that motion with the idea of reflectorizing and painting the area that we spoke about. And then also, I noticed that our sheriff's deputy hasn't checked in, but I also want to move forward on option number 2 with the spot enforcement and speed radar as much as we can up there. That'd be great.
But you make a good point about option 3, the sign, because that should go in regardless of whether we do the refuge lane or not. I think Philip would agree with that.
Sure, we could definitely do that. Just to clarify, then I just want to make sure I'm clear. We did approve option 2, which is the spot police enforcement, and then Director Shagnon was in favor of option 3, which is the intersection ahead sign, and the commissioners were also approving option number 4, which is to construct the eastbound left turn refuge lane and race curb median. Is that an accurate statement?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Brett, were you able to record that?
I'm writing it all down right now. I have that we are approving to move forward with the left turn refuge lane, that we are including a request for spot enforcement and possibly the speed feedback trailer. Did I hear that in there too?
Yes.
Okay, and then also the T intersection warning sign on the westbound approach of Alicia towards Lanzarote, that we're also going to be installing that sign. Have I gotten everything?
I believe option 3 we have to have in. Is that correct? If we're going to do the refuge lane, we have to have option 3?
I think option 3 isn't really connected to the refuge lane. It's just a good thing to have. It's a intersection ahead warning sign that lets drivers on Alicia know that there's a T intersection approaching, and so that they're more careful.
I would request that if Commissioner Leckness approves.
I concur with you.
Okay.
Okay, then I have all 3 parts of it in there. The design and installation of the refuge lane, enforcement, and the T intersection warning sign.
All right.
And of course, the median area for the left turn refuge will have all appropriate reflectors and object markers placed on it per the design standards.
Yes. And anyone who bet on the 2-3-4 parlay did really well today. Kidding, of course.
All right. Okay, let's go to the next item. We have a full agenda today, so thank you guys. Thank you, Director Shagnon.
Yes, thank you, Mark.
All right.
Okay, I think it's my turn to share now. Oh, this is our stop signs on Country Club Drive. So let's see here. I need to share my screen. Okay. All right. This item came to us at the request of one of our residents. This is a request for stop signs on Country Club Drive at Bodega Lane. This intersection is located off of Country Club Drive, just south of Oso Parkway. You can see I have it marked there with the red dashed circle to indicate the intersection we're talking about. This intersection has a existing one-way stop on Bodega Lane exiting the Mission Ridge neighborhood. And so the request would be to add 2 additional stop signs and of course the associated pavement markings that would go with them. And we did receive one comment from the original requester that will go into further detail for the reasons for the request. So I'll just move ahead with our report on the intersection right now. So we looked at the always stop sign warrants that are part of the California Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, and that has all of the criteria we look for before putting out a stop sign. So the first criteria A, is we can put in an always stop when a traffic signal has been justified. So that's usually like an interim measure between justifying the traffic signal and when it would be constructed. There are no plans to construct any traffic signals here, so that warrant is not met. The second one, Warrant B, is when there are 5 or more left turn, or right angle, or basically broadside collisions within a 12-month period. So we looked back at the last 3 years of data, 2017, 2018, and 2019, and found that there were no broadside type collisions at this intersection. Therefore, that warrant is not met. The third one, Warrant C, is where we start looking at vehicle volumes. And it looks for a minimum of 300 vehicles on the main street and 200 vehicles on the side street for 8 hours of the day. And so in this table here that I've created, we have the 8 highest volume hours of the day done by a traffic survey we conducted. And so for Country Club Drive, which would be our main street, we need to have a minimum of 300 vehicles there. And we range from 150 down to 125, I believe is the lowest value I see there. So those aren't met. And then we range on Bodega, which is our side street, where we need a minimum of 200 vehicles for those same hours. We're looking at 29 to 11 vehicles an hour. So at that 100% level, they're not met. So you see there's this other column here where we look at the 80% threshold, which is 240 vehicles on the main street and 160 vehicles on the side street. And that's our last warrant down here, which is D, which is the combination of B and C at 80%. So we would need the 240 vehicles on the main street and 160 for the side street for those 8 hours. We could see that those weren't met. And then that would reduce our need to see 4 broadside type collisions at this location to justify the warrant, or to warrant the stop signs. And you can see that warrant was not met. We have some photos here that show the approaches to the intersection. So this is looking south on Country Club Drive. And then this is looking the other way. And then this is on Bodega looking out to Country Club Drive. And that concludes my report. We can open it up to any questions, or I can go to my resident comments.
I have no questions.
All right. Then for my resident comment, I have just this one item here. It says stop signs for Country Club and Bodega Lane. The need for stop sign at Country Club Drive and Bodega Lane is based on the blind corner situation. Let's see, it's covered by my window here. At said junction, in addition, some motorists often coming from the northbound lane of Country Club Drive are driving really fast, which present a high potential for a major accident at this location. By the way, was there a vehicular collision or a vehicular accident at this junction prior to 2017? Like I said before, we look back 3 years in our collision data. We do have the other older data, but I didn't look at it prior to this particular meeting. And so that's our one comment, and that's from Donna Villanueva, who is the original requester of the item. So based on the failure to meet the warrants for an all-way stop sign, we would recommend denial of the request.
Brett, I love your thoroughness, and everyone's has got to really appreciate how not overboard, but how you just do such a good job presenting this. And based on what you said, I would like to make a recommendation or a motion that we deny this request.
I second that motion.
Okay. All right. So we have our decision on this item. I guess we're ready to move on to our next item, which is parking restriction on Aprico at Arcada. And that's going to be Philip's item to present.
All right, let me share my screen so that we could see. Okay, can you guys see the screen
Yes.
for this exhibit? Okay, so this is my Vicinity Map Exhibit. It shows the location of Aprico and Arcada. The major intersections here is Oso Parkway and Felipe Road. If you go north on Felipe, and then make a left at Aprico. The second intersection is Aprico and Arcada. Aprico has a 35 mile per hour speed limit, and there's about 3,500 vehicles on Aprico. That was from 2017. There were 0 reported collisions at this intersection from 2017 to 2019. This is our aerial map, so it's zoomed in. I want to make it clear, though, for whatever reason, the street Portsmouth showed up in the middle of the intersection, but this is Arcada Drive here. And this is Aprico. Today, there are existing 25 feet of parking restrictions in both directions. What the resident is asking for is to go above the 25 feet existing restrictions so that they could see better from the sight distance when they're exiting out of Arcada Drive. On this exhibit, we do have Pacific Hills HOA when you enter Arcada Drive, and then to the south, when you get further down Aprico Drive, there's Barletta, which leads to the Melrose and Mirasol HOA. This exhibit here is when you're traveling south on Aprico. As you can see, Arcada is on your right. This is if you're sitting, trying to make, to go out of Arcada. You could see the parking restriction on the right. Today, there's a 25 foot of parking restriction. There's a sign here in the middle. What they're asking for is a greater parking restriction so that they could see better. Right now, there's not a car there, so the visibility is pretty good. But when there are vehicles there, they indicate that they're unable to see further down the street. And this street view photo is when you're looking in the opposite direction. Again, there's an existing parking restriction of 25 feet. residents. Thank you for the city's proposed reasonable response to Arcada's residents' comments regarding parking on Aprico and Arcada, and for the courtesy notices placed on cars parked on Aprico regarding street cleaning schedule. My husband, Andrew Gordon, shared your department's proposal to limit parking by 25 feet on Aprico at Arcada to increase visibility. That will help the safe passage from Arcada to Aprico. We are fortunate that we are able to park our 2 cars at our Melrose residence. Since we lived here for approximately 8 years, we've watched our neighbors' children grow and get their driver's licenses and cars. Those cars do not need to be parked somewhere, and sometimes that is on Aprico. We have not experienced any type of bad parking behavior. The pandemic has resulted in more cars for longer periods on Aprico as residents work from home. They are fortunate to still have a job. I do hope that our Aprico neighborhood is able to realize that we are all neighbors and that the Melrose community is not trying to create an eyesore for our Aprico neighbor to endure. Regards, Margaret Gordon, 129 Melrose Drive. Right. And then this is the 4th response, a resident response that we received. This one's a bit long as well, so I'm going to turn on the 3-minute timer. Okay. Thank you to the City of Mission Viejo Traffic Committee for the opportunity to speak to the agenda item regarding the request for parking restrictions along Aprico and Arcada. As an original homeowner in Pacific Hills since 1995, this has been an ongoing issue since the completion of the Melrose community to many of us in the neighborhood. I would like to share the multiple situations I have encountered over the years that validate the very real need for parking restrictions. Near misses, I cannot even count how many near misses I have witnessed as a result of the narrow passage due to vehicles parked on both sides of Aprico. Not just vehicle versus vehicle, but also vehicle versus pedestrian. People darting across to enter or exit their vehicles, as well as doors flinging open, is hazardous. It is not uncommon also to see vehicles in the morning that have sustained damage from an overnight collision. Loitering. For many years, as a night shift registered nurse, it was not uncommon for me to come home in the early hours of the morning, anytime between 2 and 7 a.m. I frequently witnessed people loitering near the parked cars or the dimly lit sidewalks. Loud music, car alarms, verbal altercations are not uncommon. Safety. Poor lighting, further reduced by overgrown trees, adds to reduced safety, not only for drivers, but also for residents who enjoy walking in our community. Over the years, we have had multiple vehicle break-ins and abandoned vehicles. Litter. While walking in our community, I have on multiple occasions seen dirty syringes, bottles with human waste, and litter creating concern for public health issues. Increase. With more people homebound due to COVID-19, there has been a noticeable increase in the volume of vehicles. They now extend all the way up to the Aprico Fieldcrest Bend, creating even more obstruction to the road. I truly feel for the residents that reside in Melrose community and that utilize Aprico as an alternate means for parking. I don't believe they are necessarily all of the problem, but do contribute greatly to the issue. Possible solutions. Single side parking, perhaps if the parking was reduced to one side of the street, preferably not the slope side where people are more inclined to loiter. It would create a safer passage and prevent some of the additional issues described above. Pass parking. This could generate revenue for our city and would provide a dedicated space for actual residents that need additional parking. The revenue generated by the passes and or ticketing would accommodate any additional expenses by the city needed to patrol and ticket the area. Increased lighting. At a minimum, it would be, okay. All right, so we did reach the 3-minute mark. I'm gonna close out this commentary. It did come from Beth Moyer Gaetano. Okay, so I'm gonna move on to the 5th resident comment that we received, and this is the last one. To whom it may concern, I am a resident of Arcada, and it is a bit frustrating when turning out of Arcada to Aprico due to the cars parking to the edge of where Aprico and Arcada meet. Visibility is poor due to cars blocking. Also, not only are cars parked along Aprico, they are also overflowing onto Romani and Arcada. I have seen many houses not use their garage of cars and instead park on the street. It would be appreciated if you could consider parking on only one side of Aprico, and perhaps residents could be encouraged to use their garages for parking. I live in a cul-de-sac and there's only one parking space in the circle. If we have guests, it's difficult for them to find parking on Aprico. Thank you, Rushanak Fadavi. And that's the end of the resident comments that I received for this agenda item. Did you guys have any questions?
I don't have a question, but I get the sense that the applicant just doesn't want parking on Apricio, and it's not a real safety issue. And I know that area. I go down that street often, and there is cars parked along both sides, but it's needed because of everybody. And right now, especially like the one person who wrote the email said, with people being at home in the last few months, it probably is a little more crowded there because people are at home and they really can't go to work, or they are working from home. I thought that was a great item that she mentioned there. But my feeling is, I don't know if this is a staff recommendation or what, but I feel it should be left as it is, and they just be careful coming out of there. It's a perfect street too. It's not a big traveled street. It's perfect for somebody to park cars on both sides. It is the ideal street to park cars on. There's no homes, not in front of anybody's home. It's like just the perfect spot, I think, to have overflow parking. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
I would only add to that. I agree with Dave. There's a real overtone of this being a community policing problem. And I would highly recommend that your reporting party call the sheriff's department, have those vehicles that are marked, get them marked if they're there past 72 hours, have extra patrol checks. But the safety aspect wasn't really articulated. But what was articulated is that this was a community policing problem with the, commercial vehicles, the RVs, drug activity, littering, and everything else. So I would say leave it the way it is, but blow up the phone over the sheriff's department and get some extra patrol checks over there and see if that helps at all. That's all I have.
All right. I don't have any additional comments from my end. Does the city staff have any comments at all?
None from me.
Okay. All right. So I guess the commissioners have indicated to select the option to keep the parking restrictions as is, and then we'll recommend Orange County Sheriff's Department do some more policing in the area, and we'll forward that recommendation to them. Brett, were you able to notate all of that recommendation?
Yes, I have that we're leaving the parking restrictions as they are existing, that we're going to forward the issue to Orange County Sheriff's Department as it is a bit of a community policing issue and it wasn't articulated as a safety issue.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good. I'm going to stop sharing so we can move on to the next item.
All right. Hey guys, so stop me if you've heard this before because we're going to be back on Bodega Lane here. All right, so let's get back on this and then. Okay. So we have a request for speed limit signs to be posted on Bodega Lane. This is the same Bodega Lane we talked about just a few minutes ago. We have our location aerial here showing that it is the street located off of Country Club Drive, just south of Oso Parkway. And here is our exhibit showing where the proposed speed limit signs would go. There are existing street lights in each location to provide us a spot to mount a potential speed limit sign should we choose to move forward with this item. So we looked at the collision history out here again, as we do whenever we have a traffic committee item on a street. And from 2017 to 2019, there were no reported collisions on the street. Also, just for reference, I did look up the average daily traffic on Bodega Lane. That was some information we had collected for the stop sign item. And on an average day, we have about 523 vehicles on Bodega Lane. Also, there's the legend showing what the requested speed limit sign would look like. One of the items of concern was the grade or the steepness of the street as it descends down towards Country Club Drive. It is rated at about a 5.4% grade, so it's getting a little bit up there in how steep it is. As you know, since we talk about speed humps in the traffic committee so often, 5% is that cutoff of what we can't go above if we are going to consider speed humps on the street. So just to give you a reference of how steep the street is. So the California Vehicle Code is going to play a little bit of a role in our decision making here today, because typically with our residential streets, we have what's called a prima facie speed limit, where the street is considered a residence district, and by default, the speed limit is 25 miles an hour. And that's what this top section here, the section 22.352, is basically saying in a residence district, the speed limit shall be 25 miles an hour. Down below, I have section 515 that defines what a residence district is. And it looks for a roadway that's a quarter mile in length and has 13 or more dwelling units on one side of the street, or if it's double loaded, it would be 16 or more dwelling units on the street. So the length of Bodega Lane is, oh, here's our data here. It's about 600 feet long, and that's short of the requirement in the California Vehicle Code. Also, the number of homes, I was conservative and only looked for the 13 for a single loaded street, because for the most part, Bodega Lane is a single loaded street. We would need 13 homes, and there are 7 total on Bodega Lane. So that doesn't mean we can't do a speed limit sign. What it means is that just putting up a 25 mile an hour speed limit sign doesn't make it enforceable. What we would have to do is include Bodega Lane on our next speed survey, which is coming up in the year 2022, and conduct a speed survey to justify a posted speed limit on that roadway to make it enforceable. Here we have a couple photos of the street. As you can see, there's a street light right there, so we could potentially post one of the speed limit signs on the street light. And looking the other direction, it's a little hidden by the tree, but there is this is up at the other end near Amapola Lane, away from Country Club Drive, and that's where the speed limit sign could be posted for going in the downhill direction. Of course, we have a couple of alternatives we can look at. One thing that we can do is place a curve advisory sign to remind motorists to slow down because of the curve. And also, there is a center line that keeps traffic on the appropriate side of the street going around the curve, and it ends about halfway between the curve and the intersection here. And so one of the things we could do is extend that center line all the way up to the intersection, and that makes the roadway feel less wide and could provide some encouragement to motorists to slow down. And so that concludes my report on the request for speed limit signs on Bodega Lane. Do we have any questions from the commissioners, or shall I move on to our resident comment? I see no from Commissioner Narrowhays, and I don't have Dave's video up on screen. But the silence is going to tell me no. All right.
The video, but all right, I say no. All right, no
Yeah.
questions.
No, just when I go into screen sharing mode, I can only see I can only see 3 video feeds, and so yours would just the computer
question.
didn't choose you to be one of them. All right, so our comment is, oh wait, you know what? I have a exhibit for this. Here we go. So, okay, so the need for posting a speed limit sign when entering Bodega Lane is based on my observation of motorists who are driving in excessive speed in this residential area. The potential for vehicular accident and injury, especially for children, is present. Your action on this matter will help address or minimize this risk. And this is from Donna Villanueva, who is the originator of the request. So, at that, I can open it up to commissioner comments.
I would say, I don't know if Commissioner Nauerhays is here, but I would say based on, I mean, I thought before you said it, I'm thinking this street is so small. Why does it even need that? I mean, isn't it common knowledge that, it's probably 25 miles an hour? And then you said that there's some, uh, prima, whatever the word is, it's a very fancy word. I like it. That you don't need to have
the residence district.
No, it said prima facie.
Oh, the prima facie speed limit. Yes.
Yeah, I love that. Sounds very French, But anyways, I don't think it's necessary. I don't think I would support this. Commissioner Nauerhays, what do you think?
I concur with that. It's prima facie, whether it meets the standard or not. I think anyone with a driver's license should know the speed limit in residential area is 25. If we had some data or multiple complaints to back it up, I would support it. But at this time, I would say leave it alone. Signs would just be, an unneeded cost and the look of them. At this point, I would say no.
Okay. And then no interest in any of the alternatives, the curve sign or the center line?
No.
Okay. Just wanted to verify. All right. Then we can move on to our next agenda item, which is parking restrictions on Via Framista, which is Philip's item to present. So I can stop sharing. There we go.
Okay, let me see if I can get my screen on here. All right, do you guys see the exhibit? Yes, okay, sounds good. All right, so this is my vicinity map. We did receive a request for proposed parking restrictions on Via Framista. This street is located just south of Alicia Parkway and west of Tribuco. There's a series of streets you have to go through to get there, Via Victoria and Avenida Columbia. Via Framista is a 25-mile-per-hour speed limit street. We don't have any traffic volumes for this street, and there were also 0 reported collisions in the past 3 years. So this is, let me try to make this bigger. Okay, there we go. So this is our aerial exhibit. This is Christopher Park, and we recently made some renovations on this park. This park has 3 access points. One is on the top left via Alcala, and then there's another access point here on Via Framista. On this cul-de-sac is where the proposed parking restrictions are being requested. There's 2 locations for parking restrictions. And then at the bottom of the exhibit, I don't know if you guys could see that, but there's also another access point to the park off of Valparaiso Drive. I'm gonna go to the street view photo. So this is the entrance to the park from via Framista. This is a very recent photo, this taken last week. This is all the upgrades to the park. You could see all the new landscaping elements. There is an existing fire hydrant there today, so there are parking restrictions that could be implemented today as we speak. The resident is asking for red curb on this portion in front of the fire hydrant. You know, based on our California vehicle code, you can't park within 15 feet in each direction of the fire hydrant, so that's enforceable today. But the resident who lives right next to the fire hydrant, right here at 23822, they would like red curb parking restriction. And then they also are requesting a parking restriction to the opposite end of their house, just off of this page. I'll change it over next so you could see it. But that's what they're asking for, is red curb parking restrictions. Traditionally, the city has moved away from painting red curbs due to maintenance issues. We have been utilizing signage instead of red curb. So I just want to point that out very clearly. And this is another view of the area, just from the opposite end of the cul-de-sac. Again, there's a fire hydrant. The parking restriction would go right here, right in front of the entrance to the park. It is enforceable today because of the fire hydrant, but they do want red curb or signage or both. And then this is a picture when I'm actually inside the park and I'm looking out. There's a fire hydrant right here. The resident that's asking for the restrictions is just to the right of the fire hydrant. And then just past the resident's driveway, there's a white car parked there. That white car is also the second area where they're asking for a parking restriction. All right. And then this is a photo that I took on June 9th. I was there in the morning. And this photo, actually, I'm sorry, this photo came from the resident. They said that there was a construction vehicle that was parked right in front of the fire hydrant. This is actually the landscaper that's doing the construction for the park. As you can see, the landscape and the trees for the park are different. So this is actually a city hired vehicle when they were under construction. And you can see the green fence is still up, and then they have I think that's the ditch digger there. So I did a parking observation count at different points of the cul-de-sac. Point A and point B, this is the area that's being requested for parking restrictions. And then C, D, E, and F are other parking locations on the street where cars could potentially relocate if a parking restriction is implemented. Here is my parking observations. I went there on 2 different Wednesdays, one at 7 a.m., one at 9 a.m., and one at 12 p.m. Section A, this is the section in front of the fire hydrant. Again, there's an existing fire hydrant there, so the parking restriction is enforceable. There were 2 cars that I did see that were parked there, and both of those vehicles were the construction vehicles for the park when they were doing under construction. Location B is between the houses of 23822 and 23812. There was 1 car that was parked there the whole time I checked it out. It was that white SUV vehicle that I saw there. And then section C, D, E, and F, there are a range of 0 to 2 cars at different times of the day on 2 different days of 2 different dates of the week. And then this is the original letter that we received from the resident on 23822. This was sent to our Public Services Department. Good morning, Jerry. Thank you for taking the time to discuss the Christopher Park renovations with me last week. It is truly appreciated. Regarding the parking situation in Via Framista, I believe that the Via Framista entry to the park will be seen as and used as the main entrance to the park, and that this is going to affect our use of our own personal property and will negatively impact the quiet cul-de-sac experience we bought this house for. The use of the Via Framista entrance as the main entrance to the park is evidenced by the construction crews on a daily basis. For the same reason the construction crews are using Via Framista each day as their main entrance, so too will park users, as the entrance is now the closest entrance to the play equipment as well as the new picnic equipment. I just cannot see someone parking anywhere else, especially if they want to bring picnic supplies with them. At a minimum, we would like to ask the curbs in front of the fire hydrant to be painted red to deter people from parking here. Even in the old state of the park, parking in front of the hydrant has been a constant issue. If the small curb to the left of our property could as well be painted red, that would be ideal. We often have to avoid cars hanging out of our driveway as park visitors to try to use this small curb for parking. Both of these issues will be more frequent with the park equipment and picnic facilities being now oriented so close to the Via Framista entrance. I have attached a picture of the hydrant area discussed above. Additionally, I have attached 2 pictures that show how much dirt and debris is being left each day by the crews at the point they enter the park. The pipes laid down to allow water to pass the trucks up the curb are once again filled with sand and rocks and other debris. Thank you for your assistance in addressing these questions. John Human. Okay, so this is a picture when I'm standing in the middle of the cul-de-sac. So this is the resident's original request at 23822. And this is the fire hydrant right at the middle of the picture. I did show here that it is enforceable by our vehicle code that you cannot park in front of a fire hydrant within 15 feet in each direction. So here are those 15 feet limits. They are asking for parking for the entire curb here, and then also on a curb to the left of their house where this white van or SUV is parked. This white SUV was there at all 3 times of my parking observations, so I just want to make a note of that. And then this is my last exhibit. You know, we have traditionally converted to no parking anytime signs in lieu of painting red curve due to maintenance issues. So I did show where the signs would be placed if we did approve it, or we could do the red curb paint, or we could do all 3. And then this portion right here between the 2 houses is also part of the request to have parking restriction signs on both sides or a red curb to indicate that no parking availability there. There's no fire hydrant here, and it's outside of the limits of the fire hydrant. I did write some parking restriction options. We could use the existing conditions. We could just contact Orange County Sheriff's Department and use CVC 22514. We could also construct 2 new no parking anytime signs with an arrow as shown here, one on each side of the fire hydrant, which is 15 feet away, or we could do the painting the red curb for 15 feet on each side of the fire hydrant wherever it's feasible. I did receive a couple of resident comments. So I don't know if the commissioners wanted to discuss the exhibits first before I read the resident comments, or do you want me to proceed with the resident comments? Okay, so I'm seeing Commissioner Nauerhase saying move forward.
Yeah, proceed.
Okay, Commissioner Leckness, do you have any questions or proceed forward? Okay, I'll proceed forward. All right. I did receive, I believe it was 2 comments. So the first comment is shown here. Let's see. The first comment, Honorable Traffic Committee, I support the request. Parking in illegal proximity to the fire hydrant is a regular occurrence because the entrance to the newly extremely upgraded Christopher Park is within the no parking limits of the fire hydrant. A red painted curb would make a visual notice easy to follow. I would also keep an open space access to the park in case of any potential emergency, as well as fire engines on the crowded end of the cul-de-sac. Any expense for painting or marking with signs would be a minuscule fraction compared to the cost of redoing the park. Thank you for your consideration. That was the first comment. The second comment is also from the original requester, which is Mr. John Human. This is a longer comment, so I'm going to time it just to make sure we don't exceed our 3 minutes. Okay. My name is John Human, and my family and I live on Via Framista with our property line adjacent to Christopher Park. Our driveway entrance is immediately adjacent to the sole fire hydrant that services Christopher Park and Via Framista community. We have lived in our home here in Mission Viejo since 2011. We have always known that living next to a community park would bring some sacrifices regarding noise, traffic, and parking. But the issue we would like to bring to your attention today is the illegal parking that regularly occurs in front of the sole fire hydrant on the street. As Via Framista provides the most convenient entrance to playground and picnic amenities, this entrance is the de facto main entrance for the street. The city has stated that Valparaiso Drive is the main entrance and parking area for Christopher Park, but as Valparaiso Drive entrance is on a hill, is far from the picnic and playground equipment, and part of the entrance has multiple steps that need to be traversed, the Valparaiso Drive entrance is certainly not the entrance preferred by our visitors. The recent construction that just completed at Christopher Park made it very clear that Via Framista is the main and preferred entrance to this community park. During the construction period, October 2019 through June 2020, 99% of construction equipment and materials were delivered through the Via Framista entrance, with the only construction crew entrance gate being on Via Framista. Why was it on Via Framista and not Valparaiso Drive? If Valparaiso Drive is the main entrance and parking area, simply because Via Framista is closest to where the new playground equipment and picnic areas were installed. Parking in front of the fire hydrant has been an issue for the past 9 years we have lived here. But with the recent remodel of the park, this issue will most certainly grow and become overly burdensome for the residents of this small cul-de-sac. With the remodel that just completed, the playground equipment was expanded and moved closer to Via Framista entrance. Likewise, the picnic and seating area have been expanded and moved closer to Via Framista entrance as well. These factors will increase the use of Via Framista as the main parking area for visitors of the park. Given that Via Framista is a relatively small cul-de-sac, park goers tend to grab whatever piece of curb they can to park and unload their family equipment for a day at the park. As Via Framista is quite a small street, this means that there is not a lot of curb space, and as such, visitors will park regularly in front of the hydrant. Okay, all right. So that ends our 3 minutes for each resident. So I want to close it out that this came from Mr. John Human, the original requester. There is one more comment. I guess I missed adding it on here. So I am going to see if I can read this out loud. Actually, I did add it on there. It was from Ronald Young. Okay, so that's the end of the comments. Did the commissioners have any questions?
Just a quick question. When you say the city doesn't traditionally like to paint curves, but do we paint curbs? I mean, is that option out there if that was a solution, or is it just not recommended?
Yes, that is an option. However, after speaking with our public services department, they've informed me that they have to repaint the curbs red. I think it's yearly or 18 months. So we do have existing red curbs throughout the city, but they have to inventory the red curb and they have to repaint it every month or every year or every 18 months. So there's a cost to that and there's a staff resource effort involved. What we've been doing in the past, a recent past, is we've been trying to utilize signage instead of painting red curb. The signage is equally enforceable, and when we put the signage there, it's a one-time thing. We install it, and that's it. There's no maintenance involved unless the sign's damaged or stolen or something. But from a maintenance standpoint, it's just from the construction of the signage, and then that's it. So I would say we're trending toward using signage, and we're trying to discourage red curb paint. However, if the commissioners still want to do red paint, we could move forward with that option as well. Or we could do both. We could do red curb paint and signage as well.
I just want to jump in on one thing with the signs versus painting the red curb is that when you paint the curb red and a car parks in front of it, a deputy driving by doesn't see the red curb. But if you have street signs that are mounted 7 feet high that are above the vehicle and they go by, see the vehicle parked there, but the sign's there above it that is clearly visible, then they would be more likely to stop and do enforcement on that.
My feeling is I don't like the signs. I don't like the red curb actually either. I mean, basically, this resident, obviously doesn't want somebody parking in front of and near his house. And we've made the park so nice now that more people are gonna be coming, and he's gonna be more unhappy. You buy a house next to the entrance of a park. That's part of the deal. I would say I prefer to do nothing and leave it as it is. However, if Commissioner Nauerhays feels strong about the red curb, then I would support the red curb or the signs, depending on Commissioner Nauerhays. Whatever he thinks, I'm okay with.
Yeah, I'm against the signs, and I'm also against the red curb overall. It's funny, the fire hydrant doesn't look like a traditional fire hydrant either. It just looks like it's one of those square box fire hydrants. I can't tell from the photo. Is it maybe something that the only thing I would recommend is repainting the fire hydrant a brighter yellow. I'm against the signs, especially with all the beautification that was just done to that park. And that's all I have.
We could cut that residence bush all out of there. Let's destroy that. No, I shouldn't say it. But that would clear that up. Okay, no more comments from me.
Okay, I just want to be clear that we're not proposing any red curb paint or signage for the entrance to Christopher Park. There was a second request for that portion to the opposite end of the house. There's a little parking area where the white van is located. That was part of the request. Did you guys have any comments for that section as well?
Well, my comment is, yeah, I wouldn't touch in front of his house. I mean, that's just parking. I mean, you live next to a park. People have to park when they go to the park. There's, I would say nothing with that one. Really, I think that's not a good idea. But if we want to do something to the other side where the fire hydrant is, I could support that reluctantly.
I'm against any of the no parking anytime signs or the red curb. I think we would just go off of the statute of, motorists are supposed to know not to park in front of the fire hydrant. I just think making the fire hydrant more visible with some paint, if it's warranted. That's all I have.
Okay.
Just to note that the city doesn't paint the fire hydrants, that's the water district. So you could send an email to the water district, but You know, they're going to do what they're going to do. We have no control over the paint on the fire hydrants.
Yeah, but the city does have control over making that phone call and saying that thing needs to be painted so it can be more visible. Is that correct?
We can certainly make the request.
Okay, let's make the request if it needs painting and any kind of maintenance, and maybe it'll be more visible.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. So I think that wraps up my agenda item. So I'll stop sharing and then maybe Brett can move forward to his item. Thanks.
All right. Let's see here. To share my screen again. All right. Okay. We have a request for a no outlet sign on Abrazo at Vista del Lago. This is one of our items that has come to us at the request of one of our residents who lives on Abrazo, which is on the right-hand side of the screen there. It's on Vista del Lago, just east of Los Alisos Boulevard, and it's a short cul-de-sac street going up the hill. It's right next to Hidalgo, which is a collector street that connects up towards the neighborhood that's off of Crucero and Camargo, that area up behind the Portola Hills Shopping Center. And that part is significant when we get into the reason behind his request. So here's the exhibit showing the yellow dot where the requested no outlet sign would go. And then I have a few other signs noted on here with the orange dots. The first one is an existing T intersection sign that is posted in advance of Hidalgo. And then we also, further down the hill, we have an existing signal ahead sign for to warn motorists of the traffic signal that's down at Los Alisos Boulevard. And here's our legend showing the proposed no outlet sign and what the no outlet sign looks like. At this intersection for the last 3 years, that's 2017 to 2019, we have had 0 traffic collisions here. Also, just to note, the average daily traffic of Vista del Lago is about 5,200 vehicles a day. So here we have a couple of photos showing the intersection. There's the entrance to Abrazo from Vista del Lago. This is looking east, and then this is the same intersection for the west approach. And then this is on Abrazo looking out towards Vista del Lago. And then this photo is looking into Abrazo from Vista del Lago. I have one resident comment on this from the original requester. Let's see here. He says he would like to submit the picture below for review. The through street sign is posted at the entrance of Abrazo, where I live, and not at Hidalgo, which it is intended for, which is the root cause of confusion for drivers entering our street and speeding off once they realize it's not Hidalgo. The picture also shows a right turn arrow on Hidalgo Street. That is where the through street symbol sign is, or which is posted at the entrance to our court, should be moved to. In addition, our court needs to have a sign posted that it is not a through street. And these are the two signs he's showing. Actually, you know what? I think the signal ahead sign might have been further down. That is a curve advisory sign. At any rate, he is proposing that the T intersection warning sign be moved down further, closer to Hidalgo. But we can't move it past Hidalgo because any street sign would have to be placed in advance for the street it is warning the motorists about. So that concludes my presentation on this. and we can open it up to any comments from our commissioners.
Where would the sign go? Or that's where the yellow spot is right there, right?
Yeah, that's the yellow dot would be the location of the proposed no outlet sign.
Where does the applicant live?
I do not see an address on this email. I don't have
my
his
only
exact
issue is-
address, but he does live on Abrazo.
Yeah, probably the end. It's probably not his house that the sign would go in front of. I don't like the idea of putting a sign in front of somebody's house. I think that'd be very bad. You know, but if he lived in that house, then if he wants a sign there, that's fine. But my guess is he doesn't live there.
Okay, Commissioner Nauerhays, do you have any comments?
No, I mean, it's a really small street to have a no outlet sign. I mean, just looking at I'm only looking at a satellite image. I didn't go out there, but we're looking at like barely 4 houses deep. I think it's a little unnecessary. And if there was some sort of neighborhood uproar, otherwise, I would consider it. But at this point, I would say no. And I also think that the added sign blight for such a nice area, I think would have a negative impact.
I agree.
I just wanted to chime in. The original requester, they live off of 22212 Abrazo Court. That was in the original email I received. That's actually the first house to the right when you're entering Abrazo Court.
So
I
he
just
is in
want-
the corner house.
Yeah, that's his house in the corner.
Okay.
Just want to make that clear.
I have nothing further.
Okay, so then I see that the motion is to deny the request then?
I'll make a motion to deny the request.
Okay,
Second it.
okay. Then that shall be it. All right. We have one more discussion item before our updates that Philip is very excited to tell you about. So this is our 2020 intersection watch list, and this is something that we just talked about at our previous traffic committee meeting. That was our 2018 watch list that had been delayed due to some data issues that we had. But this is the latest and greatest based on 2020 traffic volumes of our intersection watch list. And that, as you recall, is when we monitor various unsignalized intersections throughout the city where we have received complaints from residents about concerns for safety and such. And so we monitor it based on the traffic signal warrants and can look at it to see if a traffic signal is warranted or if maybe other options like the left turn refuge we talked about earlier or turn restrictions or any other modifications could be made to help improve traffic flows. Typically, the city doesn't go out and proactively construct these type of improvements. Instead, it's used for when we have developers coming in doing a project like renewing a shopping center or something, and if there is a traffic impact found at any of those intersections that are on our list, and it contains 36 intersections, we can use that to justify any improvements we request of them as part of the approvals process. And it is a points-based system, so we look at various traffic flow indicators out there to assign points to each intersection, including traffic volumes, and there's another one called the interrupt where it looks at how long a vehicle trying to enter the main roadway would be delayed, and we assign points based on that. Some of the other things we look at are pedestrian activity, if it helps with traffic signal synchronization. We of course look at collision history and some other lesser known items like environmental concerns and intersection geometry, that kind of stuff. So this is our point summary table. Our highest scoring intersection is Margarita Claro with a total of 28 points. The last traffic signal we constructed off of this list was the medical center at hospital driveway. And that was done as part of the hospital's expansion project that they did, gosh, over 10 years ago. Before that was Felipe and Camden. That traffic signal was constructed. And if my memory serves correctly, we were looking at close to 50 points for the traffic activity at that location that justified the traffic signal. And here we're still, our highest intersection is still at about 28 points. So the summary sheet extends across 2 pages down to our lowest scoring intersection of Villa Linda at Madero only had 7 points. And then as backup for this data, we have our data sheets that were included in our packets that show all of our data that we look at to arrive at these point assignments. That's all for my report. This is just a receive and file item, so if there are no other questions, then we can receive and file and move on. But I am, of course, here to answer any questions.
You had a couple intersections with footnotes. What do those footnotes connect to? I think it was Poe and there's one. Yeah, Alicia and Poe. There's a footnote.
Okay, yeah, the indications for the footnotes were left over from last year. It was because of the way the data was collected at those intersections. There was a little bit of an irregularity because they only collected data on one side of a 4-way intersection, so we had to estimate our traffic volumes based on having one side of the data versus both. But that was corrected in our data collection this year, so that footnote was no longer necessary.
Copy that. That's all I got.
Okay, so if Commissioner Leckness, if there are no questions, then I will mark this as receive and file.
Yeah, receive and file. Thank you.
Okay, and then on that, I can open it up for our updates. It sounds like Philip has some items to discuss with us, and then I have a few other just little footnote items, and then of course, if you guys have any other questions for us, feel free to ask. But I will turn it over to Philip to kick us off.
Okay, I do have 2 updates I wanted to talk to you guys about. So let me share my screen. The first update is in regards to the meeting from last Monday night for the Planning and Transportation Commission meeting. The Planning and Transportation Commission did go ahead and recommend approval of the Saddleback Church property, the Truemark property, with some additional comments. One of those comments was from Commissioner Nauer Hayes, and that was to add more parking for the site. And the developer did forward a revised site plan to us on Friday. I forwarded that email to you guys. I don't know if you had a chance to review it, but I'm going to share it right now so you could see it. So this is the memo that we received from Mr. Eric Nelson, who's representing the developer. This memo indicates members of the traffic committee following the July 13th Planning Commission meeting, my team evaluated the potential to increase the number of guest parking spaces for the Saddleback project. We looked at all of the prospective options to increase parking, including adjusting the southern and western retaining walls, as well as looking at modification of the proposed site plan. Our goal was to address concerns raised during the hearing while balancing the overall aesthetics and preservation of landscape and open space. The proposed project presented to the Planning Commission provided a total of 32 guest parking spaces, as noted below in Table 1. So on this table, it does show the guest parking spaces at 32 right there. Following the review of the site and civil plans, we determined that there are multiple opportunities to increase the parking supply. The following changes have been made to the parking plan. Additional parallel spaces 16 to 20 were added along A Drive between B Drive and D Drive. Parking space 6 was created by reducing the bulb out and shifting stalls west. Parking space 27 and 28 shifted transformer south and added 2 spaces. Parking space 29, 45, 57 reduced landscape fingers and added parking space. Parking space 21 reduced landscape area adjacent to the rec center. I have included the revised site plan following the updated parking with highlights noting the above mentioned changes. See Figure 1 for the updated parking plan. Below you will see the updated parking table in Table 2. If we go to the next page, this is Table 2. On the third line from the bottom, you can see that the guest parking space is now a total of 44 spaces, which is a change of an additional 12 guest spaces to the site plan compared to what was presented at last Monday's meeting. The addition of the 12 guest parking spaces represents an increase of approximately 35%, with a total of 13 spaces above the required parking. We hope that you find these changes acceptable and consistent with the direction of the Commission as it balances on-site landscape aesthetics and addresses the Planning Commission's comments and requests for additional guest spaces. If you have any questions or need additional information, please do not hesitate to contact me. So I'm going to now show the site plan. Let's see. All right, let me zoom out a little bit. Okay. Are you guys able to see the entire site plan right there? So on this site plan, I believe the red parking spaces are the new spaces that were added. There's a total of 12 of them, and these are all guest parking spaces highlighted with a blue dot. This is the changes that were made compared to last Monday's meeting. We did circulate this plan to our staff internally. I know there were a couple of comments already. One was from our public services department. They indicated that parking space 21, this one right here next to the pool, they were looking to see if it would be better placed on the opposite side of the pool area. On this side, if it could fit, that might be better. That was one comment that I saw from our public services department. And then our community development department indicated that parking space 45 right here in the middle, it shows that there are a row of, I think, 15 parking spaces total. And so parking space 45, I think they need a landscape finger somewhere in there to break up that number of spaces. And our city code also says there's supposed to be a landscape finger, one for every 8 parking spaces. I think that's what it is. So that was the only comments that I saw. And then I forwarded this memo to the commissioners. So I'm open to hearing any comments or questions that the commissioners have.
Well, I'll just say, I think it's good. I'm glad they came back with 12 more. I mean, that's definitely good. There's probably not much more they can get out of it. But I did talk to our other, there's probably more, but the one that I know of that has tandem parking is Adagio. And I talked to the management over there, and they said it's just terrible. They say it's the worst because what happens is these guest spots, what a you know a family will do, because if you're in a tandem, you know, you just got to juggle who's coming to work and or who's getting home later and who's got to leave earlier in the morning. If there's a guest spot, they just take the guest spots, and they're not utilizing their driveway or, you know, their tandem is the way we would like. And there's probably no way around fixing that. Just, you know, it's the nature of the beast with this design. But you know, that's a comment that I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thanks.
Philip, real quickly, I'm in agreement with that parking finger. I mean, if it's code, we should adhere to it. And first and foremost, I thank Mr. Nelson for coming back so fast with this and coming up with these ideas. The only other thing that I want to see, and I'm having a hard time seeing, is can you zoom in on A and B Drive a little bit better? And then just scroll down a little bit. There you go. Okay. So your staff was saying space number 21, they wanted to see it on the other side of the rec center. Did they give any rationale about that? Did it have anything to do with it being butted up against that house?
Yes, that's exactly the comment, was to move the parking space away from this home, maybe even add it next to 21 or 22 right here as another parking space if possible. They didn't want a parking space so close to the home, because I think this is the front portion of the home. So, and then it was just one parking space just hanging out by itself. So I think that's what the rationale was.
I would agree with that. I mean, it's really close, and if people coming and going and slamming car doors and stuff might be a little intrusive. If it can be fit over by 22, that would be an option, and if not, I would say eliminate it. But those are my only recommendations. Would be the parking finger situation, and then trying to move. I can't tell what number that is. Is that spot 21?
21, yes.
Okay, trying to move spot 21 closer to 22.
Okay, appreciate the comments. I'll forward this message to our community development department, and maybe they can include this information and forward it to City Council at the next City Council meeting for this project. Okay, all right. Was there any other comments from staff at all?
No comments here.
Okay.
None from me.
All right, so that takes care of one of our updates. So I'll go ahead and move forward to our second update. This is just a follow-up that I wanted to show you guys that what we've done so far. So back in January of this year, we did, or we went to the Planning Commission to approve some traffic calming on Via Fabricante and Obrero Drive. I don't know if you guys recall that. There was some angled parking that was installed last year and some pavement striping modifications. And then we went back to the Planning Commission for traffic calming reasons and an update. So this is some street view photos of what it looks like out there today. There's an angled parking on both sides of Via Fabricante. One of the things that was approved by the Planning Commission was to change the speed limit from 35 to 30 based on the new speed survey. So the new speed limits are out there today. speed limit signs of 30 miles an hour. So I would just wanted to give an update that we've done that. So if you drive on Via Fabricante, you'll see that today. And then in addition to that, one of the other things that was recommended for approval was to install 2 speed feedback signs on Via Fabricante and Obrero, one in each direction. So that was back in January, and last week we did go ahead and install the speed feedback signs. So I wanted to give a picture of what it looks like. This is your new speed limit of 30 miles an hour, and then below this it's a speed feedback sign. This one is for the northbound Via Fabricante at the corner adjacent to the neighborhood car care facility. So that's out there today. It is solar powered, so there's no wiring underneath. And then in the opposite direction, just across the street for the southbound Via Fabricante, there's also the speed limit 30 miles an hour and the speed feedback sign that was installed last week on an existing street light pole. So I just wanted to share that with the commissioners that they were installed last week. It's something that completed what was recommended for approval back in January. And just wanted to share some photos with you guys about the updates for this traffic calming effort on Via Fabricante.
Very cool.
Yep. So did you guys have any questions or comments at all for that?
I just got a comment. I think that sign's pretty cool, but doesn't it make you want to, like, because at night there's no parking on that street, right?
Correct.
I mean, it might be, if I was a kid, I would think it'd be kind of fun to get out there and just see how fast you could, get that up to. Is that something that sign would do? Or, I mean, could that be a problem later? I mean, I suppose we could find out if it is, but I mean, to me, that seems like it'd be a place to go.
Yeah, we were aware of that issue because we have other speed feedback signs in the city. So what it does is it'll show your speed from 25 miles an hour up until 30, which is a speed limit. After you go above the speed limit, when it's 31 up until I think it's 39 is how we programmed it, it'll flash your speed. 31 to 39, it'll flash your speed. When you hit 40, it doesn't show you the speed. It just says slow down. So from 40, I think 40 to 50 miles an hour, it says slow down. That's how I captured it there. Somebody was going 40. After 50 miles an hour, we turn it off. So you don't even see any message or any numbers. It's just turned off. So
You're way ahead of me. Way ahead.
But that's a good question though, because we get a lot of those questions. How fast can it show? Because they're going to try to get a higher number up there. So that's it for my updates. I think Brett has some updates he wanted to talk to you guys about. So I'll stop sharing. But before you guys leave, let's talk about the next traffic committee meeting date as well, because I do have 3 items already scheduled for the next one. So let's talk about that after Brett shares his updates.
Yeah, my update just comes from the Rail Technical Advisory Committee meeting I went to last week, and just a quick update on Metrolink service in Orange County. And as to be expected, the ridership is very down right now, but they did share results of a survey that they did of their commuters that say as they are invited back to work in their offices, so as the stay-at-home orders are lifted, about 80% of the commuters say that they will be returning. So we can shorten that up and just say that they anticipate having a lot of ridership return as the stay-at-home orders are lifted. The other big thing that impacts us, okay, there's 2 more things. First up is the passing track that they're constructing just south of the Laguna Niguel Mission Viejo station. That is 70% complete and is expected to be done by the end of the year. And the last thing is renewal at the Laguna Niguel Mission Viejo station of the tactile strip. That is the little bumps at the edge of the railway platform where passengers board. That and the yellow stripe where it warns them stay behind the yellow line Those are going to be renewed at our station later this year. I believe they were currently going out to bid on it, and then it would be in the fall that the replacement of the strip and the new striping would be complete. So that is my update on the Metrolink station.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. I wanted to talk about the next traffic committee meeting. I do have 3 items already for the next meeting. And so I wanted to talk about the date for the next meeting. Traditionally, we've been scheduling the meetings on the 3rd Monday of each month. So that lands us on to August 17. So I wanted to ask the commissioners if they were available on that date, or if the commissioners wanted to go dark for a month, similar to City Council and the Planning Commission, or how did you guys want to address the next meeting?
I'm indifferent. I mean, I'd like to stay consistent with public service and go dark. But I'm open-minded. And I'll yield to Commissioner Leckness.
What did you say? You're for going dark, or for not for going for dark?
Oh, I was for going dark just to keep it consistent.
Yeah,
for
I'm
public
fine.
meetings.
The 17th's fine with me.
Okay.
Well, okay, so
Did I
normally we
miss
take the month of August off, and so our next meeting on the books right now is for September 21st. But Philip has 3 items ready to go for our next meeting. I have 1, so we got 4 discussion items that are coming up ready to go.
Yeah,
So
I
the
think
question
we're
is,
saying the 17th is fine if it's a quick one. Is that right, Commissioner? You feel the same way?
Yeah, I had just proffered taking August off just to stay consistent with public meetings being dark in August and then reconvening in September. That was okay with you?
Oh, you prefer that?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay, then, no, that's fine. No, then that's fine. Totally. September sounds great. Perfect.
Okay. So if we postpone to September and we use our traditional format of the 3rd Monday of each month, that would land us to September 21.
yes,
So I want to make that very clear. Okay, so we'll go ahead and schedule the next traffic committee meeting on September 21. Right?
yeah, I have that written down that our next meeting will be on September 21st, 2020 at 3 p.m. And no word yet on if it'll be another virtual meeting or not, or if we'll be able to have something in person by that time. So we'll see what happens.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All
All right.
right.
Then if there are no other comments, I'm going to call this one adjourned at 5:23.
No comments from me.
No comments.
No
Thank
comment.
you, everybody.
Thanks,
I kind
guys.
of like this though. It's kind of easy to staying at home and doing it, but go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, there's a definitely more convenient. So yeah.
Yeah, it's just, our little conversation that the entire city watches in on.
That's
All right. Well, thank you guys. And stay safe
Okay.
out there.
Yes.
Yeah, have a good day.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have a
All
good
right.
one, guys.
Okay.